Another edition of the Rashad Mills Show here on Awesome God Radio. Incredibly excited to have you a part of what I'm doing. Obviously, the Rashad Mills Show, we've been in existence for a few years now, but this is the first show of the fall season. So we are, in fact, kicking it off in a major way. Now, I have some tremendous people to my right, and I'll introduce them momentarily. But first, I want to show my appreciation for you. You guys have been rocking and rolling with me, and without you, the Rashad Mills Show doesn't exist. And I want to make sure that you stay connected to the Rashad Mills Show simply by going to Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Any comment, question, and concern that you have, I will make sure that I get to it throughout the end of the show. So we are on live. We're live on set, right? We're on set at a church in preparation for an amazing play that's going to come up this week. And I've been fortunate enough to get the cast members with me. Now, to my right, the incomparable Shirley Murdoch. If you haven't heard of her, I don't know what to tell you. You've been under a rock for quite some time. Ursula Battle is playwright, producer, and again, in this particular area, in the Baltimore area, her name is still ringing bells for some of the amazing things in terms of production that she has brought to this area. We have the Dr. Branch, Executive Director, Dr. Branch. Thank you for joining us on the Rashad Mills Show here on Awesome God Radio. And we have my main man, my good brother. Look at him, ladies and gentlemen, fresh off the plane from Hollywood. Looks like $2 million. My good brother, Leonard Stephanie. Now listen, if you have $2 million, rather, I need at least 5 or 6. 5 or 6, and that would be more than sufficient. So first and foremost, thank you for everybody's time, and even prior to coming on live, just the setup. I appreciate it. We had to maneuver some things around, so I'm appreciative of your time. So first and foremost, and I'll start this way and kind of work my way around. What has it been like just maneuvering life in terms of setting up these plays and then you have things set up and then COVID comes in? So kind of talk about the adjustment perspective.
Well, first of all, I got the call to be a part of this wonderful production, Serenity House. And so I got a chance to talk to Ursula and to Dr. Branch, and I was just really excited about the script, what the story was all about. And we were set, we were getting ready, we were having Zoom rehearsals, and then COVID came. And so we had to kind of put things to the side, but and we had a couple of starts again, but we're just really happy that we're finally able to come together as a cast to put this thing together and to present this wonderful ministry to the people of Baltimore.
Absolutely love it. Ursula, how about you? How was it for you just adjusting, considering like this is your baby and it was put on hold? So what did you have to do in that adjustment period?
Well, first I had to face the reality that we were going to have to postpone the show. I don't think in all the years that I've done shows, I don't think we've ever had to postpone the show, to my knowledge. So I had to adjust to the reality of that. And I think Dr. Branch could attest to the fact that wasn't easy for me, but I settled into it and I accepted it. And I just felt that, God would work it out and we would do it in God's time. So I believe that this is the right time to do it. And I'm very excited about it.
Dr. Branch, how about you?
I think I would have to answer that from 2 perspectives. One is personal and one is professional. So personally, I suffered with COVID. I had that disease. And so I had to suffer through that for those weeks, dealing with the shortness of breath, dealing with the coughing, dealing with all those types of things. So for me, it's a blessing because I was able to come through that unscathed, and I thank God for that.
Thank you.
From a professional perspective, I am obviously the executive director of Unified Voices, blah, 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 blah. But your viewers will know me also as the health officer for Baltimore County. So I deal with this day in and day out for Baltimore County. And so what we recognized, we knew in December of 2019, I've been dealing with this woman named COVID. And we've been kind of struggling with her and working with her and this whole works, trying to get the communities to understand how important this is and how this disease is a matter of life and death. I thank God that we were able to get to a point 1 year after, in December of 2020, to have a vaccine that was as effective as it is. And so overall, disappointed that we had to postpone the show, but elated at this particular time that we can come full circle and to be able to do the show. And I will say, and I have to say, that the venue holds 1,000 people. We will probably not have no more than 300 people in that venue. So we're going to be very, very COVID conscious as we're doing this particular show.
So you're right. That was definitely two interesting perspectives, right? Personally and professionally. So let me ask you this before I move on to Lenny. What gave you the feeling that you were comfortable enough to kind of get out and continue things like this because you actually experienced it?
I will tell you that the vaccine made all of the difference in the world. The fact that we know that 100% of the cast are vaccinated. We would not allow anybody to be a part of our cast if they were not vaccinated. That was very, very important because we recognize that when we do the show, we're going to take off the mask. The mask?
The mask?
So we've got to take off this mask. And so because of that, we really wanted to make it was very important to us that everybody be vaccinated. And I can tell to everyone who's listening now that on this day, the FDA has approved the vaccine. And so I would say that everybody should go out and get the shot to the vaccine because it is a matter of life and death.
Lenny, how about you?
From an actor's perspective, I looked at back in March when we were originally supposed to do the play. I mean, it's kind of like a horse at the Preakness at the starting gate, and it was like we were just so ready and rearing to go. But like you say, that when COVID hit, it just stopped everything. So the way my mind works, when we decided to do it now, it's like I have to learn the script all over again. my mind just doesn't work that way. But everything fell into place, and we're just excited about doing this awesome ministry. That's what it is. It's ministry first, and just looking forward to see it, being on stage and seeing the people, and praying that somebody gets healed from our ministry.
Amen.
I now ask this question, and anybody can jump in. What was it? Shirley had mentioned it a little bit earlier. What was it about the script for each one of you that was like so compelling that kind of pulled you in? Because the title itself means that some healing and some deliverance is going to take place. But what was it about the script for you guys that just you felt so powerful about it?
Well, I think because it was reflecting real life, real situations, and the things that people are really struggling with. And during COVID, I think that also brought out another level of the struggle. And so to have this wonderful piece that mirrors what people are going through, but not only just dealing with the fact that, but the answers, the solutions, to know that there's healing, to know that there's deliverance, to know that there's help. And so I think that when the people come, especially if you're dealing, well, we all have issues.
Absolutely.
But I think that you're going to see yourself reflected in at least one of these characters, somebody you can relate to, and to understand. It's like somebody will understand your struggle. You won't feel like you're an alien from outer space. Nobody knows what I'm going through, but it will be reflected right there. But you will also see that God is able to do exceeding and abundantly above all we can ever ask or think. And so there is a solution. And so our testimonies will be that key to open the door, to unlock the jail to somebody. If the devil had it unlocked, it'll be the key to unlock the door that says the devil is a liar. There is deliverance. There is hope for you. And there is help for you.
My God.
Ursula, how about you?
Well, for me, once I really began getting into the script, and I began to feel in the writing process the power. I believe that the Lord was moving in me and moving in the people around me, such as Dr. Branch, and even in the performers in terms of what he wants this play to do. And as Shirley just said, it's really to transform lives, it's to give people hope, it's to encourage people, it's ministry. And I have to honestly say, and we've done some fantastic shows, but this particular show, this is our third time doing it. I've never seen a show where people are impacted in the seats like they are. I mean, I remember when we did it one time, and a young lady, we took a short intermission, a young lady said, I'm just trying to get myself together. This show has really just resonated with me. Wow. I mean, just a powerful show. And I'll just say this, not to get into the book too much, but I've written a book based on the show. And I can honestly say that when I was writing the book and I got to certain parts of the book, I just felt that God was just moving through me and giving me a message to put on the pages of this book. And I can't really describe what that's like, but it is a very powerful thing as a writer to feel when God is moving through you.
It's like God puts his super on your natural.
That's right.
And then it makes it supernatural, right?
Amen.
Well, Ursula, let's stay there for a moment because it's something I want to mention a little bit later, but that was a perfect segue to it. Talking about the book, right? Serenity House, kind of talk to us about the book, which was newly released. You just had 2 book releases this past week, correct? Kind of talk us through that and the book and what the book and the connection to the play, and then where people can actually go to get the book as well.
Well, the book is an extension of the play. With the book, because I'm not confined to time constraints, we have to do a play in a certain amount of time, but the book allowed me to really delve really deep into some things. So as you can tell from the width of the book, it's 600 something odd pages. It's a 2-part book, part 1 and part 2. And I can say, I believe just like the play is, I think that the book is life-changing. I think people can pick up this book, read the book, and their lives will be changed. And I say the same thing about the play. I think people can come and see this play and they'll be entertained. They will laugh, they will cry, they'll think, but I think they can leave out transformed. And I always like to revert back to what I shared with Dr. Branch. I was at an event a couple of months ago, and a young lady came to see this production the last time we did it with one of the recovery houses that came. And she said that she came to see the play and the play helped her to get clean.
Wow.
Praise God.
That's
That's a
powerful.
blessing.
Yeah.
So this is that, to me, that's life changing. That a person can come see a play and you'd have to come see the show to understand this. But she said the play allowed her to get to the root of her problem. But you have to come to see the show to understand what that means.
I like it.
You should hear that word, the root.
The root. The root. So you're watching the Rashad Mills Show here on Awesome God Radio. Fortunate enough to have cast members of the play Serenity House from Addiction to Deliverance. And you mentioned the play, so this is a perfect time. Throw alley-oop to people who are interested, where they can get tickets, the address where they can actually come support the play this week.
Well, they can go online to UV of jhmi.org, or they can call 410-955-8888. And if for some reason they don't get an answer on 410-955-8888, they can call 443-531-4787.
Okay. And as always, if you know me, I'm always promoting, supporting anything that's positive. So follow me, obviously, Facebook.com and Instagram as well. My Instagram stories, I'll be flooding you guys leading up to the play with the flyer, making sure that you guys come out and support. So let me ask this question. This is for anybody. So we're talking about Serenity House from Addiction to Deliverance. Just the title alone means some kind of healing and people will be set free from some kind of bondage. I'm going to ask you guys to go a little bit deeper and personalize it. Have any of you been in the place where, you know, you've had to go through your own struggles and this play is sort of like a connection to what you've gone through in your own personal life?
Well, I'll start. I've never been in addiction. The play does touches a lot on forgiveness, and it also touches a lot on when you're stuck in unforgiveness. So I personally have seen what unforgiveness has done to people, particularly in families, when people have a disagreement over something and they just hold it, they won't forgive, it stagnates you. I have also seen the effects of alcohol, drug addiction, just as I'm also a journalist. So just in terms of the people that I've interviewed over the years, situations I've seen from people that I know, it's almost like to describe it as a ditch, and it's so easy to fall into that ditch, but climbing out is rough. It's rough, but you can do it. So while the play may talk about, and the book may talk about the ills of addiction and the ills of unforgiveness, to me it provides a gateway, a path as to how you can overcome and how you can be delivered, and it all goes back to God. And how he can transform. This play in the book is all about transformation. And once you let go of certain things, he can open up some doors, unbelievable doors.
So also remember, the deliverance is not only for the person who's addicted.
Exactly.
Deliverance is also for the family members and for the friends. And I can tell you from a personal perspective, I grew up all around addiction. Now, my family proper, there was no one addicted in my primary family. But I grew up in the projects in Brooklyn, New York. And so therefore addiction was all around us. And so I had to suffer that trauma and understand the post-traumatic effects of what I had to deal with. Seeing somebody die of an overdose, that's traumatic to a young child. Understanding that your friends are dealing with that with their family members. So the deliverance is not only for the individual who's suffering from it. This disease, which is an important concept, this disease is not only affecting the individual, but all the family, friends, and community. And so therefore, I think when you read the book or when you come see the play, it's for all of those community members. I think you will see people completely different. And rather than looking at them as the product of their illness, but looking at them as an individual who has a disease, I think the perspective will change. And I think that the community will then look at them differently. And I think that is what's so important about this. We've got to stop looking at people who are addicted to drugs as if they're less than. That's not the case. They just happen to be a person who has that particular disease process like anybody else would have. High blood pressure, diabetes, a stroke, heart disease. It's the same thing. It's a disease.
That's right.
Now my character, Willie Jones Jr., like you said, it had to be divine intervention because Ursula as a writer never knew my story. But it was like Willie Jones Jr. was written just for Lenny Steadman. My mom saw the play years ago. Well, one of the first times that we did it. And she said she sat in the audience and there was a line in there basically talking about how my dad was a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. When he wasn't drinking, he was the kindest man you'd ever want to meet. But when he had that oil in him, he was the meanest man ever. But thanks be to God, he's been delivered from it, from alcoholism, and homeowner, married for years, clean forever. And I just thank Ursula and Dr. Branch for the opportunity to be able to project my story to the people, and I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
You know, we don't live in a bubble. Everything that we do affects everybody in our orbit. And I've never been personally in an abusive situation, but I've been around it. Friends having their teeth knocked out, people having bones broken. So it led me to write a song called I Love Me Better Than That, which we're gonna actually do in the play. You know, I love me better than that than to lay here and cry, to stay here and die. Let's talk about getting your life back, taking back your life, taking back your hope, taking back your dreams. And so to have this opportunity to play, the role I play is Sister Claire C. Voyant, and to be able to minister to the people at the Serenity House. You know, we're talking to them, we're teaching them, and we're imparting wisdom unto them to bring them from addiction to deliverance. And so that's really what it's all about. It's about helping each other get through, you know, the perils, get through the ups and downs, get through the struggles, and to let people know that you're not alone. You're not the only one, but there is an answer. And that answer comes from above. He will give you the strength to be who he's created you to be, because he says, I know the thoughts and the plans that I have towards you. He was never, your future was never meant to be strung out on drugs or to be mentally or physically abused. He has a plan for your life. That's to give you hope and to give you a future. And that's what this play is all about. Pointing the light toward that hope, that possibility of all the things that you can be, so that you can be those creative persons that God created you to be.
Here's a very interesting part, and Dr. Branch, I love your response, because addiction is not just in a singular sense, right? You have families of people that are addicted, they kind of go through it. So we talk about domestic violence. I'm assuming it's an element of that in the play as well. So there's so many different things that we can be delivered from. And when you talked about sort of this post-traumatic effect, right? I'm a licensed therapist, so my therapist's brain just went off. And that's so powerful for people to understand. So you don't have to be actually addicted to drugs or alcohol to make your way to this play, to find something. It may be something in this play, a line or two, a song, a moment that an individual can take back home to their family. And now we can potentially start this process of healing households just from a play like this. So let me ask you this. Ursula, do you understand sort of this incredible responsibility that you have and God has given you to really save people through sort of your ministry?
Now I do.
I'm assuming that wasn't always the
Now I
case.
do. Wasn't always the case. I've always enjoyed writing.
Mhm.
It's something I've always enjoyed doing. I think when I did my first play, The Teacher's Lounge, years ago at Coppin State University, and when I wrote that script, and when I heard the first reaction from the audience, my mother's was teaching in the Baltimore City Public School System. She's retired now.
Mhm.
And when they got it, when they laughed and when they cried, one of the teachers in the play had breast cancer. Because it was a comedy, but it also exposed some other things that teachers were dealing with at that particular time in their personal lives outside of the schools, which were issues that anybody could deal with. So people could relate to that play, whether they were teachers or not. But when people got it, I said, oh, this is powerful to have that type of power over an audience in which you write, in which you can make people laugh or cry or think and shout and pray. That amazed me. So now I understand and I take it more seriously. I've certainly grown more in my spiritual walk.
Mhm.
I've seen God just do so many things, and I'm just going to give one quick example dealing with Mrs. Murdoch here. I saw her in a show years ago at Morgan, and I went over to her after the show, and she signed my CD. I brought a CD, my mother and I never would have thought at the time that I'm sure I thought like, well, it'd be nice to have her in the show, but I never saw it coming to fruition. But to me, that's how God works. To have her sign and autograph my CD and to actually be sitting here with her at Huber with a show coming up, a dynamic show, to me is a testimony to what God can do.
That's a holy hookup in a sanctified setup.
Just to let you know, I'm gonna steal that line. I'm definitely gonna steal it, but I'm gonna give you the credit. Dr. Branch, here's a question for you. Directing something like this and then seeing everything coming together, all the moving parts, everything that from a even societal perspective that got to deal with COVID and the numbers and all of that. Like, what is it like for you to see this come together and know that people are going to be blessed by it?
So if you know me, what you'll realize is the fact that I am an avid thespian. I always say the world is a stage and I am the star. Like, I just live out life that way. So I love theater, but I just went to medicine, which is really interesting, right? Like, so I am a medical doctor, right? And I do that for a living. And I do that well. I enjoy that. But I think my heart is really in theater. So for me, understand the COVID pandemic. We got that. But prior to that and during that, we have the opioid epidemic. And people were dying because of the opioid epidemic. And so I'm doing everything possible that I could possibly do to help save those lives. But merging those two parts of my brain together, those two parts of who I am together, I kept saying to Ursula, you gotta write a play about addiction. You gotta write a play about addiction. So for me, this is just a wonderful thing that's come to fruition. And we take this stuff seriously, so much so that at this play, we will have substance abuse peer counselors, and we will have salvation counselors on hand, because we recognize and understand that this is no joke, and this may be the time. There's a window there. You may see something right now and say, I need help. And so therefore, we want to give you help right then and there. Or a mother, a father, a grandmother may see something in there and say, I think I can do this. Can you give me some information to be able to help my loved one out? And we want to be able to say, here's the information right now, because it's on your heart, right? So for me, it's just a wonderful, wonderful expression of how my brain thinks, and how I have always wanted to be able to help the community. So yes, I help them from a medical perspective, but I think that we can also help them from a theatrical perspective, because there are people who will not walk into my office to deal with their addiction. But their friend may be, they say, come on, see the show I'm having at a church. And they may walk in there, and then that may be the time that they can get their deliverance. So the road is going to be different for everyone, and I get that. But I like to be able to have as many avenues as we can, as many places as we can. I can plant as many seeds as we can so that we can actually help that individual or that community to go from addiction to deliverance.
That's really powerful because it's combining different gifts that you have. And I think sometimes when we understand that God has given us all different gifts, we think that they have to be limited just from the medical perspective. And I can't really delve into what God is giving you in terms of a thespian and seeing plays, come together. So I think we all have different gifts, and we have to be able to combine those gifts. And we serve a God that gives us more than one gift. And I think for somebody out there watching, it's powerful to know that God has given you more than one gift. Combine those gifts so he can ultimately get the glory. Lenny, I want to put it on you for a little bit, and not to go deep into your character, but kind of tell us just a little, because I still want to get some people out here to see what the full, what was your character's name again?
His name is Willie Jones Jr.
Junior, emphasis on the junior.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, emphasis on the junior.
Senior was a bad brother.
Tell us a little bit, just a little bit about your character, kind of tease the people that are watching.
Well, I can say that Willie Jones Jr. was a grown man who was still a kid at heart. Still very playful. Everything was never very serious for him. Everything was a joke. Kind of like Lenny. That's why I say Ursula wrote this character for me. But he dealt with issues with his dad. He grew up abusive father, alcoholic father, and he went through some trauma that you'll see when you get a ticket for the play.
For Lenny, for you and for Shirley, how do you guys sort of separate that you're in character, you're in the role, but yet you're able to make sure that the personal side of you doesn't come into play too much?
Well, I think you have to use everything.
Yeah,
I think using the personal side, gleaning from your own personal experience and things you've experienced vicariously, people around you, you bring all of those things to glean from to put meat on the bones of the script. And so I think as an actor, as a singer, as a performer, as an artist, I think we bring all of those things to the role to give the role some oomph, to give the role some personality. And sometimes some of it may come from my own personality. I might be kind of pulling from maybe something that my mama said, or a particular way that maybe maybe Auntie might have turned her head, or her expressions. All of those things I think will be recognizable, because one thing as an African American community, there are so many things that we have in common. Even those old sayings, like Mom used to say, baby, everybody can't tell the same lie, but we all understand what that is. So there are certain things that we do just as a people that everybody can relate to and understand.
What you say? Bless your heart.
Bless your heart, no, you pause.
How about you, Lenny?
For me, I definitely use my personal experiences. When I always say, when I hit the stage, it's always just it's not performance, it's ministry for me, and I delve into everything, and I pour out. A lot of times there's a scene in here that you'll see when you get to the play, but when I go in, it's all the way in, and when I leave that scene, it's almost, I need a moment. So,
and you also have to have a certain amount of vulnerability.
Absolutely.
Because then it becomes more real, and people can really relate to it. They can feel like they can feel, where you're coming from. So there has to be just that authenticity, just that vulnerability, and just, like I said, just being real. And so people can relate to that. And it's even like when you're singing, what comes from the heart reaches the heart. But if we're being transparent, and we're letting ourselves open up and to become this character, then I think people can really can relate and are drawn to the character and what this character has to say, and what that dialogue might be saying to me on a personal level.
Gotcha.
So I will say this to you, because I'm a director. One of the things that I think is extraordinarily important is to have the actors to understand who their character is. So I've really been pushed to say, ask them all about specific things about their character, the character's lives, the character's community, whatever it happens to be. You need to understand all that about your character. And then when you bring all that together, it makes it a much more powerful performance, even though some of that stuff is not said on stage, but you bring that because you understand that. So I need to understand, why is Willie Jones Jr. the way he is? And we have to work through that whole process so that when he understands why he's the way he is, then the audience can feel and glean that, understand that, and then it makes so much more sense. And so we do that with all the different characters. And by doing that, I think that the cast then are all in. They just are all in.
One thing I can say is about the greatest director on this side of Broadway, Dr. Branch. One thing he always taught me was, you're not just reading lines. You're not just reading lines, and that's the way I perform. I'm not just reading the lines. I have to, like you say, dig into who my character actually was. When we first started, when we first started in auditions and everything, it's always, we'll sit around and again, we'll discuss who that character is. How did he get to that point? We just had to learn who our character, and then you can character build. So I thank you, Doc.
You're watching the Rashad Mills Show here on Awesome God Radio. Incredibly excited to have the cast of Serenity House, From Addiction to Deliverance. To my far right, Lenny Stepney Jr., aka Willie Jones Jr. Had to make sure I put the emphasis on it. Executive Director Dr. Branch, playwright Ursula Battle, and then the legendary Shirley Murdoch. So Ursula, I want to ask you a question. Kind of tell us a little more about the book, and then again, let people know where they can go to purchase the book at as well.
Okay, again, the book Serenity House, From Addiction to Deliverance is based on a stage play. And I have to mention this and talking about the book, how, first of all, I give all honor to God. And I have to give a great deal of credit also to Dr. Branch, because this was really birthed from his mind, and I'm assuming God laid it on his heart, and then he talked to me about writing it. And I'll be honest with you, Rashad, I wasn't like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna write this play.
You were a little skeptical.
It took a little while. And I said, okay, I finally, sat down, and when I sat down and started writing it, and I talk about that in the acknowledgments in the book, then I understood what was being placed upon me as a writer to write. And then I really started getting into the ministry. And then I was able to tie, and this is relative to Miss Murdoch's role. I'm an avid gardener. I love to garden. I love working out in the yard. And when you work out in the yard, it's almost therapeutic, but you get really in tune with like you, nature, and the Lord. And it was through working in the garden that influenced me to actually write a part of the play dealing with the root, aka the rut. And so just that, but it all began from Dr. Branch asking me to write the play. So the play went forward, and now there's the book. And the book, I believe, is going to bless people just like the play has. The thing that really excites me, though, in addition to what I just already mentioned about the book, is that it'll be able to reach people that can't necessarily come to Baltimore to see the play. So I feel like the message can go all around the world about what God can do. And it's an exciting and wonderful, and I think transformative work. Anybody that's interested in buying the book can actually go on Amazon. It sells for $29.95. And I'm encouraging everybody to go on Amazon and purchase the book. We had readings, as you mentioned, over the weekend, and the book is set in Baltimore. So I don't care what age you are, you can read this book and you will be reminded. You will go down memory lane in terms of your childhood, in terms of Mondawmin Mall and where you grew up at. It's in this book, so I think it's a wonderful journey. But most of all, it's a wonderful story about how God can do anything. And so again, you can go on Amazon to purchase the book. They can call 443-531-4787 to purchase the book, and the book sells for $29.95.
And let me just pause right here for one moment. People watching the Rashad Mills Show on Awesome God Radio know that I love to always give back, particularly when my guests are authors. So I always tell people, if you're watching the show and you want a book, I'll go ahead and purchase 2 copies of the book for anybody watching. Just shoot me a message, Facebook, however you can reach me, Instagram, it doesn't matter. Hey, I was watching the show. Even if you didn't watch the show and you want a copy of the book, let me know and I'll make sure that you get a copy of the book. I always want to do that to support and just my way of saying thank you for your time and thank you for what you have done throughout the years. Baltimore, you're synonymous, obviously being a Baltimorean, but just your plays, it's the same thing as the Ravens and the Orioles. Like it brings a certain bell here in Baltimore. I want to go back and ask you a question, Dr. Branch. What was it that God gave you to sort of said, hey, speak to Ursula in terms of writing this play to begin with?
God did not tell me to speak to Ursula directly. God laid it on my heart, and I truly believe that when I look back in retrospect, clearly He had laid it on my heart, that there needed to be some type of play about addiction. I knew it. I even knew the setting. He had given all that to me. Now, talk about gifts and spiritual gifts. When He laid it on my heart, I was thinking I was supposed to write it. But very quickly I realized that I don't have that gift. Obviously, He wasn't telling me to do that. Right? But I said, so Lord, you want me to write this? It's going to be wonderful. He wasn't telling me that. But he knew. Like,
I got somebody for that.
I got somebody for that. I said it to Ursula, right? And Ursula was actually very resistant about it. And I thought, like, does he really want me to write it? But I realize and recognize now, and see, you can look back. The Lord was using me to keep prodding, right? And saying, you got to do this right here, you got to do this right here. And I have the first script that you wrote.
That's now a collector's item.
It's done. Okay. And so what happened is the fact that I think that once Ursula said, okay, I'm gonna do something, and she just put something together, then when the conversation started, that's when I think Ursula really felt like, okay, now this is something that needs to be done. And then she really started doing the research on it and really kind of get it together. I think that was very, very clear. And that was clearly when it came to the play. When we looked at each other one time, there are certain moments that you have that you say, this is God, period, right? And that we came to that, we had that moment when we were doing audition of the play. We were doing it on North Avenue, and we were in a restaurant, and the restaurant had glass, so you could see outside of the street. And a woman and a guy got out of the car, and she collapsed right on the sidewalk right there. And obviously, we're looking at this, we can't hear, but we can see it. And so as a physician, first thing I do is when I jump out there. When I got out there, the guy recognized me as Dr. Branch and said, help her. I said, what is going on? And he confessed that they had just taken, they had got out of a hack, which is like a little cab, and they had just taken some drugs in the back of that hack. And I think the hack threw them out of the car, right there on North Avenue.
Wow.
And she collapsed. And we had another young lady who was part of the show, Carol. I threw her my keys and said, get the Narcan out of my car. She ran to my car, we called 911, gave the woman Narcan, and we saved the woman's life. That woman's name was Cynthia. And she was oblivious to the fact that we just really actually saved her life and refused to go to the hospital. Once that occurred, the gentleman, thanked me profusely, blah, 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 blah. And when they walked away, Ursula and I looked at each other and couldn't say a word. But we knew at that moment that this was divine inspiration.
Confirmation.
It was just clearly there. And we knew that we had to continue on with this particular work in this particular ministry. At that moment, we knew.
Wow. That's incredibly powerful. Let me just say this, watching the Rashad Mills Show here on Awesome God Radio, Facebook and YouTube Live. Just a few more minutes before we conclude the show. But let me just say, some of the things that have been said here are so incredibly powerful. And Dr. Branch, your experience as a physician, here in Baltimore, we understand the climate of Baltimore and what we've been under for years, right, as it relates to opioids and fentanyl, all this stuff. It's so powerful that this, and God gave you guys that from that moment. That's really powerful, right? And I was joking with my wife. I said, if you look over at me Saturday night and you see my allergies acting up, I'm not crying, it's just my allergies, because in the spirit of being 100% candid, I just celebrated 6 years of sobriety. And so when you talk about it like this, I understand it from a personal perspective, so this is beyond a play. This is, real ministry.
It's a play, but we ain't playing.
Yeah. I like some of your one-liners.
I know.
Yeah, maybe we'll start a T-shirt line. Yeah. So again, thank you so much for just, reserving some of your time. I know you guys have a busy schedule with rehearsal and things of that nature. Lenny Stepney, aka Willie Jones Jr., Dr. Branch, Ursula Battle, Shirley Murdoch. Thank you guys so much for being on the Rashad Mills Show here on Awesome God Radio. But I want to give each of you just maybe 30 to 45 seconds and just speak to the people and just kind of encourage them to come out and what they hope, in terms of what they can hope to receive from the play. Lenny, I'll start with you.
Just knowing that all the friends and family that I've sold tickets to, just always say, find another person to bring with you, bless somebody else. They will be blessed by the ministry. Thank you guys for your support. You've always supported me, and let's go to Hollywood or wherever we're going. Where are we going?
I thought you just came from Beverly Hills. We'll talk about that later.
My arm's tied.
Dr. Branch.
Addiction is a disease, and I want everybody to understand that. Just like if you have high blood pressure, diabetes, it doesn't make a difference. It is a disease, and each disease has a relapsing course. So understand that I always say that if I had a person who was a diabetic, who was obese, who wanted to have a 2-roll beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun with some fries and a Diet Coke, that person may wind up in the emergency room with a very high sugar. When they get there, the doctors treat them with the best drug, and that's insulin. They give them more of the drug, and they try to encourage them to do better. When a person decides who's addicted to opioids to have some of those opioids that they wasn't supposed to have, just like a diabetic was not supposed to have that McDonald's. When they get to the emergency room, doctors tend to want to say, oh, don't give them the treatment. That's when they need more of a treatment. Let's treat these diseases the same way. If someone's suffering from the disease, give them the treatment. And let's understand, let's be able to accept them for who they are. Don't try to wait until they're all cleaned up, right? They're like Rashad, 7 years later, right? When he was struggling with his issues and all that kind of stuff, we should have been embracing him at that time so that he can actually become the beautiful person that he was always created to be. Amen.
How do I follow that?
I'm not even sure.
Preach.
That's dropping the mic. I feel like we should be tithing and walking out after that. That was it.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll just say that I encourage everybody to come out and see the show. You will be blessed. You will be transformed. You are going to shout. You're going to sing. I can assure you it will be time well spent. And you get an opportunity to see the incomparable Shirley Murdoch. You get to see Mr. Lenny Stepney. You get to see the work of Dr. Gregory Branch. You get to support local hometown playwright that I believe God is going to take other places. So come on out and support me while I'm here. And I'm just claiming it. But definitely come out and support this play. Be blessed. Bring someone with you. And whether you, as Dr. Branch mentioned earlier, are in addiction or not, there's something that everyone who comes to see the show can relate to. So come on out.
And let me just say this before Ms. Merlot speaks. That is, if you're coming to the show, be on time. we start our shows on time. So please come and be here 20 minutes beforehand. You can get a good seat. You can actually sit by yourself, so you don't have to be sitting around anybody else, but be here early, because we will definitely start on time. And the show runs a little lengthy. You'll enjoy it, but the show is approximately 2 hours and 45 minutes. So you really want to be here on time, I should say early, and then you'll have a great time.
I just want to say that we want to encourage everybody to come out, because there's something in this play for each and every one of you. If you know that there's somebody that's struggling, I want you to love them enough to bring them to the play and understand. I want you to come having a spirit of expectancy, because expectancy is the breeding ground for miracles. There's a miracle for you, waiting for you. So just come, and we cannot wait. God bless you.
All right.
I meant to add, Rashad, I will have books at the show as
All
well.
right now.
Perfect. And speaking of books, is a perfect segue. Again, thank you so much for watching the Rashad Mills Show here on Awesome God Radio, Facebook and YouTube Live. And again, I want to be a man of my word. Anybody that's interested in purchasing a book, don't worry. First 2 books will be on me. So just get in contact with me in some form or fashion and make sure you get a copy of the book. With that being said, I love the support. Come out and support not just these cast members, other cast members in this wonderful production from Dr. Branch and Ursula Battle. I look forward to seeing you on Saturday. I'll be the well-dressed guy with that Marvin Gaye shirt on, so just look for me, wave, still practice social distancing, wear your mask, and as Dr. Branch said, be not on time, but early. I love you guys, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.